Hey everybody, so this is my pet presentation on the Ruby programming language. So the Ruby programming language was developed in the mid-1990s in Japan, and it was initially created to basically be a new object-oriented programming language that would be easy to use. So that's actually where the name Ruby comes from. The creator of Ruby, Yukihiro Matsumoto, wanted a newer version of the programming language Perl, and there's just a lot of cases in life where Ruby comes after Perl, so like the birthstone of June is Perl, and the birthstone of July is Ruby. Just a little fun fact. But because Matsumoto wanted to create a new language, he was influenced by other languages such as Perl, Smalltalk, and Ada when creating this language. So why learn Ruby? Like I said, its design was basically for it to be easy to use, so also it was created to be fun to use and just be a very simple, basic programming language that could be used in a lot of different ways. So one example of ways it can be used is it's commonly used for games, specifically in Japan. And another bonus when it comes to Ruby is it's very forgiving with errors, in the sense that you can compile a program even though there could be errors, and you could still run part of the program even if there's errors. So if you have 50 lines of code and there's an error in the 50th line, you can still run lines 1 through 49 and test it fully, because you can run those lines before it reaches the error on line 50, for example. But because it is basic and simple to use, there are some difficulties when it comes to Ruby. For one, it can be difficult to track errors. So in the example I just said, it was only like 50 lines of code, so you could very easily find that one problem in line 50. But if you have thousands of lines of code and you're running like the first 600 lines or something, and then you find an error, and then there's later errors as well, it can be very difficult to find exactly where the errors are, but language like Java or something will point out where the errors are once you compile it, so it can just be kind of difficult to find exact errors. And also, Ruby is very slow, so if you look in this chart right here, you can see in terms of time, Ruby is one of the lowest. It takes a very long time to perform any given task. Also, in the amount of energy it takes, it's also very low down here, the 69.91. But more common languages like C and Java are much higher up on this chart. And then there's just some certain things that you want to know in order to learn Ruby. There's just some skills that are helpful to have. So first, a solid understanding of object-oriented concepts is crucial. And next, a little bit of knowledge about functional programming allows one to learn Ruby more efficiently, but this isn't really a necessity. And finally, the primary way to run a Ruby script is through the command line. So knowing how to navigate directories and run scripts is another useful skill to have. But like I said before, Ruby is really made for new programmers to learn the basics. So there's not a whole lot of prerequisites in order to learn the language. And then another debate with Ruby is whether Ruby or Python is a better language for beginners to learn when they're learning programming. So some people argue Ruby is better because it's slightly more friendly than Python, and friendly in this way basically means it looks more like English than Python. But there aren't really too many things that Python can do that Ruby can't, and also the other way around, there's not too much that Ruby can do that Python can't. So really learning either language first is a very plausible option, but Ruby does have some slight advantages. And just like I've been saying, Ruby is a very basic language. So here's a very basic example of a Ruby function. So this function decrement takes this value and subtracts 1 from it, and then end is just the end of the function. Pretty basic stuff. If you guys do my project for Ruby, this little function actually will be pretty helpful. It's part of the project. But yeah, it's very basic, and it's just a way for beginners to learn how to code. And then just in conclusion, Ruby, the main reason for Ruby to exist is it's very simple and easy to use, and it's perfect for new coders. But because of that, it's not the most efficient programming language, And in general, Ruby is a moderately popular language. It's not up there with like Java and C, but it's more well known than some other smaller languages. And that's all.